And now, everyone, please put your hands together and give a warm welcome to your host.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Excited about the kickoff of this Hall of Fame week? All right, great. Well, just thank you to all of you on campus who are here with us, and of course to those that are online that are viewing. We're excited to have you here. Again, my name is Kevin Della Serna. I'm a course director for media communications here at Full Sail University, and I'm going to be hosting the Future of Media panel today. So, without further ado, let's put our hands together for our panel. I'm going to start down here at the very end with Kim Alpert, who is director of creative technology now? Okay, with DCI Art Form. And next to her, we have Bryce Hellman, who is a realist with Forward Thinking Designs. And then next to me is Joey Morelli, the senior video editor and compositor at EA Sports. So let's give it up for them. So the future of media is such a broad topic, right? Like we could go in any direction, and had like probably 3 different conversations just before this. So before we go into the future, though, I like to go back to where it sort of came from. So I guess just can go down the line here. Tell us a little bit about how media has progressed for you since going out into the industry to date, and we'll start with you, Kim.
How long is this panel? Being that I'm 4 million years old, no, I think it is an odd topic. This is a fun panel to start the day. Can I just say that?
Yes.
Great. And you guys kind of are going to dictate the future of the media, so this, by the time it's even on the internet, is going to be like too old. But to answer your question more directly, so when I first graduated, I was in digital media. My first business card said digital media specialist. And at the time, there wasn't as much video on the internet as there was now. So I did a lot of interactive programming, really basic stuff. There wasn't, the wide variety of CMS that you have now available to you. So a lot of that stuff we had to build manually. Every single input field had to be hard-coded. And when I did a lot of video, which I also like to do, it was kind of its own standalone thing. And one of my favorite things to talk about early on in my career was just how long it would take to get your videos and just how small your videos were. And when I say small, I think my first website portfolio, the videos were 240 by 160. And that was like really nice looking video. So things are definitely way, way different now.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you want me to go like all the way through it. Like
it's up to you.
It's a long road. So to go from that to what I do now, so I build interactive interiors to help brands educate and excite consumers in the retail space. So I'm in what's called XD, or experience design, and I build things that use augmented reality, virtual reality, face scanning, all the different kinds of gesture programming. The media that we make very rarely sees any hard media, so no discs, no jump drives, no kind of nothing. Like, it's all very ethereal. But at the same time, there's a big physical component to what we make and what we use. So custom controllers, being able to wire and network almost anything together that you can think of. So I feel like we started out with this, if you can dream it, we can build it mentality. And the only difference is that our dreams evolved. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome.
All right. How about you, Bryce?
Okay, so my history is rather short. I haven't really been in themed entertainment industry for very long. Really, I jumped in right after graduation, so it's only 4 years ago. So, but in that time, it's been interesting to see the amount of content that we're dealing with for themed entertainment installations, which is my specialty. How much content that is, what the resolutions are, all of that. I remember, the excitement, like, oh, we have HDMI now, and now we have DisplayPort, and it's great. Everything's 1080p, and it's mind-blowing, and it's great. We'll never need anything else. And here we are with 4K, and we're just now getting all the installations up to 4K, and I just found out like 2 months ago that 8K is a thing, and it's like, oh, well, wait a minute, HDMI can't even support 8K. So now we have all of these new technologies that we have to rapidly integrate. and it impacts both the technical systems and content creation, because now it takes more time to animate and render and all of that. So it's just in the 4 years I've been doing it, the change has been so rapid. It has to keep us on our toes. That's what's really exciting about themed entertainment, but also content creation and whatever creative installation or what have you.
And that's 4 years, you say, right?
Yeah, and that's just 4 years.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I've been in post-production for 15 years. Started in an advertising agency in Miami. Worked at the Golf Channel Creative Services for 5 years. I've been at EA for 8 years, and it's all video has changed rapidly in that time. I can't even, like you said, like Kim said, this program is going to be old immediately as it's being released, because video basically right now at EA, we're in Gen 3, I believe. So we went from a 720p game to a 1080p game, which totally doubled all of our server space. So now we have to make everything bigger. All the videos are bigger. Every year it's something new. 4K, right? I just bought my first drone, which is a 4K drone, and I haven't even gotten it yet because it's one of those Kickstarter projects. So I'm getting into that field now because I know it's coming. You have to stay ahead of the game in order to succeed. I've seen many people who refuse to adapt to all the changes and the rapid changes, and I've seen 12, 13, 15-year veterans in the industry just get let go because they just couldn't move away from their comfort zone. And you're going to realize that in order to succeed, you have to get outside your comfort zone. You have to stay up to date on the technology and the media. And media, everybody's got one of these now. And when this came out, I mean, it solidified my choice in my career, which was video, because now everyone has a screen in front of them everywhere they go. So what I also do is installations. We were talking about installations. And it kind of evolved. Like you say, this is all evolving. So I also, EA Sports actually opened some sports bars and some stores in airports, on cruise ships, and I was the one who did all the media for these installations. The EA Sports Bar has a giant video wall of B-roll with logos and all that stuff, and I built this for one of the Carnival Cruise Lines, and literally it was 8,000 pixels wide by 1080, and it was done in chunks. And it was, I didn't even know how I was going to do it. I had to work with the engineers, and we figured it out, and we did a lot of testing, and it worked, and I got to see it, and it was, it blew my mind that I was able to do that. But that's the thing. It's something that I never knew I was going to be able to do. I never knew that it was coming. It just came up. How would you feel about doing this? So I mean, it changes every day, and that's what's exciting about doing it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So a project like that, how long does a project like that take?
Well, I mean, it's design, it's motion graphics, it's video, it's that kind of a project. It's just that you have to figure out how it's going to play, and you have to be able to test. You have to be able to watch it, and you have to be able to make sure that everything is visible and nothing is warped or distorted, especially logos. You mess with logos, company logos. So, I don't know, that one piece behind the bar took me, I don't know, maybe a week, 2 weeks. Yeah, and that's with testing and everything. But
so Joe, you brought up a great point about how the phone changed things for you in terms of solidifying. You knew where you wanted to be. So for Bryce and Kim, was there a moment in your careers where you realized, okay, this is always going to change, and I'm always going to have to evolve with this? What was that sort of moment for you?
You want to go first?
No, you go.
I wanted more think.
Oh man.
No, I don't know. I had a couple of like real moments that were like a sea change for sure. As an artist, so I do a lot of custom video sculpture work, and for me the big change happened. I was a video artist and I was a VJ and I did a lot of shows, but there was a big change for me when I worked with an engineer to learn about how you can get mother glass cut and you can build your own screens. And that was it for me. Like, I learned so much about electronics and manufacturing, and I was like, oh, even like I can like get these components, and I can build this thing, and I can build this monitor. And it really learning about that, for me, it allowed me to expand the media in which I create, like completely transform the way that I make art. But professionally, it made me see down the line that this is where everything is going to go, because the price point has become so much less expensive to do custom media and custom installations and custom display, for sure. You know, and that you're going to produce specific media to whatever that output is, and the output isn't going to be as standard as it used to be. As much as we know we didn't really have standards.
Right.
You know, like that's that great joke, like engineers love standards, that's why we have so many. You know, it's going to become more and more rapid. You know, another big one that comes up when you're talking about projection and stuff, and I don't know if you've seen these Christie tiles that are like self-aware of the grid.
Yep.
That was a really like, I was like, that was my you gotta be kidding me moment. Because doing edge blending and doing these big LED walls was this incredibly daunting thing to like be able to create a matrix of a video wall and know what quadrant everything is gonna be in and make sure that everything is set up correctly and then go and then see how it's relayed, and then once it's installed, is it right? Is the Cat 5 is one thing switched?
Yeah.
It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like the amount of prep time. And now you show up and these little box LEDs, they know where they are. You just throw them in a box, put them together, they know, they can make anything. You can make a brontosaurus and it'll perfectly display your video on a brontosaurus. It's, you know, so the hardware is moving just as fast as the software is moving. So at the same time, you know, it all just gets down to that concept piece of what you want to build, you know. And if there isn't a media for it, like just build the media, you know. A guy made, you know, GIF, like that's an invented thing. They're all invented things, you know.
I love that. So you hear that? If there's not a media for it, build it.
Right.
So.
And the software companies now, I work closely with Adobe. Dave Helmley is he's the video, like global video guy for Adobe, and he travels all over the world. He just actually, him and his team just got the Deadpool credit because they cut Deadpool on Adobe CC 2015, which is pretty amazing. And they work with us all the time. I have his email address. Whenever I have issues with the software, I send him an email. He gets back to me within the hour, and he's like, well, try this, this, and this, and it doesn't work. He said, well, that's a bug. Thank you for that. And they put it into check it in, and then they fix it, and then they put out the software. So I feel like I have a little hand in, you know, updates to the Premiere and software, which is really exciting because when you get software companies listening to you, you know, and they really care about what their pros level people say, and it creates a better tool for everybody else. And it's really exciting. And that's evolved because software companies never used to listen to us. And now it's like, you know, they just want, they want to give you the best possible tools because they want you to use it and they want you to have fun with it, you know. When the tools become invisible, then you can create and you can really go after it and not worry about which button to push and am I going to crash if I hit render? You know, it's the tools are very important, and the tools are evolving every single day.
Yeah.
Along the same thought, a lot of the technologies that we use in permanent installations is all software driven. There's no such thing as like a dedicated hardware controller anymore. It's in the rack. It's a 2RU thing in the rack, but it's all software defined. You got to log into it, or you got to program it, or you got to do whatever. Even with live media servers nowadays, it's all programmed. And so there's so many times where I've been in the trenches in the field trying to make something work, or trying to get this output to morph to some crazy resolution that's not standard. You know, I just did a ride where everything was 1440 by 1600, and it's like 1080 wasn't close enough. Like, okay, well, we got to go with this. And so I had to totally rewrite EDID information on all the displays, and it just gets crazy. And the problem that we ran into is a lot of the software on these hardware devices weren't set up, or we kept running into issues. So I was actually on the phone with the engineers from the product manufacturer saying, I found a bug in your software. And they're like, hey, you did. We will overnight you a build, and you can update the firmware, and there you go. So I love where we are right now, because as the creative content drives the next step forward, it's the engineers that have to try and implement it to also push the manufacturers and saying, your hardware, it's so close, but it's not quite there. And we had a great installation of this where we're actually pushing a specific hardware manufacturer in their software platform. The client wanted something very, very specific, and we said, this hardware is close enough. It's not even an idea yet on it, but we think we can do it. We went to the hardware manufacturer and said, this is our idea, and they said, give us a month, we'll work on it. And they came back to it, and now several installations around the world have this idea that we helped create with hardware manufacturer. So the awesome thing about software is we can kind of keep evolving it, kind of keep changing it as the soft media, the soft digital media keeps evolving and changing.
Yeah, it's like having a team behind you, basically, because they're
Yeah.
listening to you. When you have issues and you contact them, it's not something they put on the back burner and just, get to it when they can. They realize that these are professional people, and this exposure for their software is out
Right.
there. So they want you, to be, they want you to spread the word and, tell them how friendly and helpful and they are, to their pro lineup. So yeah, it's great when they do that.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. So, a question that came up I was thinking of your answer there, Kim, in terms of economically, how has the future of media impacted us economically in terms of internally when you're operating and functioning in your organization?
Well, I'm employed. I think that is like that would not be possible if it was not for the future of the media. A lot of times, like I get asked, like, what would you do if you didn't do what you did? And I'd be like, janitor. Like I don't really know. Like there really isn't another thing for me.
Right.
So, but it's part of my everyday life. Like
Yeah.
all of the things. I just gave my nephew who's 2.5 an IoT device so that like I can leave him messages from my phone and a creature will relay them to him in his room. So I mean, every part of media is like intertwined with what I do.
Yeah.
I'm speccing out like home automation. Like it's and all of it is so that I can just go and make more stuff.
Right.
Like all of it is like is that what you mean like in my everyday life? Like how much future
That-
media stuff?
Also, how does it impact your decisions with where you're going with your current projects and things like that in terms of,
That's great.
does that weigh into, when you're working on a project, well, we don't have budget for this right now because of the lack of.
Yeah, I fight for stuff when it's budgetary pretty often, because what you need to spend on media or innovation today, you will get back on the project that you'll now deserve tomorrow.
Okay.
So, and that's one that great clients understand, good clients will tolerate, and bad clients can go away. Like that's kind of how it is. I think for me personally, I made a pretty big career shift in the past since the last Hall of Fame. So I was in digital strategy, so I worked in digital media on the agency side for several years leading up to that. And media was a big decision in making that shift. And it was really, where dollars are being spent by advertisers, as well as my own personal interest, more into the experience design space, and seeing what's happening with display media and websites, and that industry is just kind of stagnant. I was speaking with somebody the other day, and it's my personal theory. I don't think it's like a thing that lots of folks would say, but I really believe that we won't see great innovation online for several years, and that will happen when the hardware changes.
Right.
But we're not going to see a great hardware change other than performance. And that's the thing is the performance needs to grow. Everything needs to get faster and faster and faster and faster.
Mhm.
And then the device can change to support it.
Mhm.
But right now we're in kind of a downshift where things are just getting fast. Like processors are getting much faster.
Yeah.
Graphics and display media is getting better and better resolution. And people are becoming smarter and smarter. And when you have that literacy at home, you can start having these little electronic devices that you can build and you can move. And now this year we've got VR coming into the consumer market, which is going to change so much.
Yeah.
So really, for me, I was like, well, I don't want to wait. I don't want to be in this interactive industry and kind of like wait. I want to learn more about electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and make more of these immersive experience design projects so that when that nexus comes, I can have both of those in my toolbox.
Right.
And then I can build my own personal, like, Godzilla servant. Right? Like that's,
Yeah.
I want to work for her. I really do.
I kind of want to jump off what she was saying. So I was just working with a hardware manufacturer a couple months ago on one of their products that they're still kind of getting out there and whatnot. And the big demand right now for theaters, for digital cinema theaters, in theme parks, not necessarily movie cinemas, everyone wants 4K content at 60 frames a second uncompressed.
Right.
And the amount of data that's required for that is
power.
extreme.
Yeah.
So, and the amount of power. So this particular manufacturer has a great hardware unit. They can do several channels of playback, all 4K out of each card, uncompressed at 60 frames. Really impressive. And he started to tell me about some of the technical issues just inside their own box. He said only one brand of solid state hard drive is capable of pulling all this data constantly to be able to do this. So the manufacturers are starting to feel that. It's like, yeah, we have really fast processing. We can do edge blending in real time now with live video. Isn't that awesome? But can you do it at 8K yet? And no. So a lot of the manufacturers are starting to feel the stress of like, content creators really want all of this. They, we want to see it projected on the side of a building. You got to have really high resolution content for that, because you're going to start seeing the pixels on the outside of the building if you're doing complex warping or whatever. So now you have this really giant content, that you're trying to work with, which takes a lot more time to animate and render.
Sure.
And how are we even going to store this thing? Like, if it's 20 minutes of content, the hard drives required for that is measured in the hundreds of terabytes, especially if it's uncompressed 4K. So do we have, and forget about the budget. Like, you are as soon as you said 4K uncompressed, you can't say budget anymore. Like, those two cannot go together yet. Because
just the hard drive space alone is going to be through the roof.
Exactly. Yeah.
Another thing that evolves all the time is codecs for video, because H.264 is basically our online format. That we use at the EA. For it creates a small file, keeps colors relatively nice. But what's coming is H.265, and it hasn't been adapted yet. Adobe's talking about it. It's not really out there yet, but it's half the size of an H.264, and it's twice the amount of information in there. I don't know how they do it, but it's coming, and it's just stuff like that that's exciting to me, because when you talk about content getting that big, it just all I think about, okay, what's it going to cost us to retool the whole place? I mean, the RAM in my machine is not going to be big enough to play this back now.
Right.
Just when you get your machine to where it plays everything that you work with nice and smooth, they up everything. They double the size of it, and then you got to go and retool everything. So, it could be expensive as a business owner, because you do have to keep up.
Right.
You have to.
So that kind of brings me to another question: is is it possible to be too far advanced in terms of technology where you're kind of the only one using that particular piece of technology or that piece of the future media and waiting for other people to catch up? Is that ever an issue?
I'm going to jump on that one.
Yeah.
Because my job title is a realist, and it's realist because I have to bring all the creatives down and say, let's be realistic about the situation, and say, I'm sorry, technology can't quite support that yet. So there are really crazy ideas out there, and we love it. We had an installation that came to us to try and brainstorm using virtual reality about a year and a half ago. Virtual reality wasn't quite ready yet. We said, this is a great idea, but what you're going to pay per headset for this it's not quite there yet. It's not quite ruggedized enough to be able to make this a permanent installation.
Right.
So it's like, you're almost there, but we got to wait until the technology progresses. Yeah, that's the big challenge, is kind of reeling it in sometimes.
Right.
There are really awesome ideas, and it's like, I can take you 80% of the way there. If we work with the manufacturer, we can get it 90%, but there's still going to be some element that we're not there yet.
And it's new. I mean, it's like the new car. It's like the new electric car. It's going to only be designed basically for the rich. And then when it gets adopted, like Tesla is going to come out with the Model 3, which is going to be affordable for everybody.
Right.
So it's kind of a trickle down thing.
Absolutely.
So absolutely.
Well, I have a Tesla on the way for me too, so.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on one of those Model 3s.
Not just kidding.
We all get one for this panel?
Yeah,
awesome.
Can't wait.
Swag bag.
I don't think that you should never be apprehensive about playing in the new space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think that that's an important thing, and we're never going to have, and I say this, and of course it's probably going to happen because I say it, but we're never going to have like another Betamax, where there were two things that were like that kind of crazy. Like even when there was HD DVD and Blu-ray, like the HD disc wars were going on, it was never the way it was never as bad as that was, as far as people not knowing which to adopt and what to do and what to go. And that predates me a little bit, but I don't think that that's going to happen again that bad. Now that being said, there's stuff coming out now that's so beyond anything that I thought we were going to be capable of this soon. The HoloLens, for instance, like doing that demo for me as a technologist, I didn't just see what I was looking at. I saw the next evolution of it, and then what it's going to be used for, and then where it could go in business world, and then where it could be in the consumer world, and that's a rabbit hole possibility.
Right.
You know, so getting exposed to that stuff, you know, is really, really important. But you don't want to pit yourself as like the expert in like the so specialized thing, you know, that you're only one person needs you. Like that's insane. Like you don't want to be the one person doing interactive, you know, dance battle holograms. Like that's
Right.
so specific. But you know, do you want to know how to program and make a hologram? Like, yeah, that's really useful. There are a lot of people, myself included, that like need people who know that stuff. You know, somebody that you have here on campus that I think would be a great example is Rob Gatto in the sim degree.
Right.
Who, you know, when I was starting out here, was so excited to like meet and to learn from him, because here's this place that has VR, you know, and he was doing those demos, you know, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, like, and now here we are, and it's real, and it's coming out, and it's gonna be, you know, in your store, and your uncle's gonna call you and ask you to set up his computer for it, and be like, why doesn't this run on my old Dell? And, you know, be like, you need VR ready, man.
15 years later, Rob's walking around going, I told you.
Yeah.
I told you.
Yeah. And that's, you know, I wish then, when I was here, that I would have poked him more and been like, teach me that now. So every time I'm back, I poke him a lot. But I think that's a great example of how things catch up, and really, to be a leader in your industry, you have to kind of keep at least like your finger kind of like near that pulse of like the true insane visionary media people, if you're interested in it.
Yeah.
You know, I think if it's daunting and annoying, then maybe no, but you know, it should be fun, you know.
Right. Absolutely. So all of this, like, it's all just moving forward so fast, and we're coming from this place. What are, speaking to the student population here, like what are some of the like transferable foundations that have worked for you in terms of workflows and processes to adapt to what's coming up? And you know, is there consistencies that you find this is where I always have to be in order to adapt to these changes in technology and media?
I mean, for me, I've been able to stay relevant in the industry just based on my adaptability and my adherence to quality. Everything else kind of just evolves around that, you know,
Yeah.
the software, the hardware. You know, when it came to EA, they had two Avid DS systems there, and they were, you know, huge dinosaur, $500,000 worth of editing systems. And they realized, they brought me in from the Golf Channel where we were a Final Cut Pro shop. They realized that for the price of those two Avids, we could have 5 Final Cut Pro suites. So I helped them retool the whole place with Final Cut Pro until Apple came out with Final Cut Pro 10, and then the whole thing went out the window. So yeah, it's I've been able to stay relevant because of I stay diverse. I don't specialize. Like Kim said, I like to, I don't know, I just like to stay, I like to keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on, what's coming up.
Yeah.
I like to talk to people about it. And being in the Hall of Fame is, for me, is the biggest inspiration of my life, besides my family. Because I talk to these people, and they're all so smart and successful and driven, and there's new stuff coming out all the time, and it's just every year I feel like I need to go back to school after the Hall of Fame week, you know, and I feel like I need to learn more and catch up, and then you know, I get right back to the next year, and then it starts all over again. So You never stop learning. I mean, it's all it just keeps it's a circle of life, man. It just everything is new every year for me, and I love that about it, because if I was just shoveling dirt, burying cable in the ground, I would probably be hating my life, and I wouldn't be here talking to you.
I'm going to say always expect the unexpected. Never back yourself into a corner. Clients will never cease to surprise you with either just crazy requests or things that just say, wow, we totally didn't plan on that, and now we got to scrap the whole thing and start again. That's something that I learned really quickly after my first installation, where I followed the scope, everything is what you want, I programmed it exactly how you wanted, and then they said, yeah, we want the ability to do 2 shows at the same time in this venue. And I said, that's going to take a week for me to redo. So now my workflow on every installation is thinking, what surprises could come up? How do I need to be able to adapt to this? And can I do it while the show is running without having to take anything down? It's always trying to think ahead of what your next step is going to be and keep ahead on the new technology. I just found out that there's technology here that I didn't even know about today. 30 minutes ago, I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even know that was a thing yet. So it's really important for us in the integration world to constantly meet up with manufacturers like once a month and just say, what do you got coming down the pipeline? What can you show me? What can you tell me about? Because I want to be ready to know everything there is to know about that new technology, and how can I use it in a new project coming up and surprise a client. When a client says, I have this crazy idea, and be like, I know just the thing, and it'll be out just in time for your project. We do that all the time, and that's really important, of knowing your industry and staying current in your industry, constantly learning. You never stop learning. That's the big thing.
That was so good.
Try.
I have like a kind of a different answer. Those are both really good. I mean, how many of you are creatives? Raise your hands. It's okay, don't be shy.
Portion of them out there.
Cool. So listen, creatives. Listen, guys. I'm gonna tell you something really important. Embrace the office suite. Give in to the dark side of documentation. The thing that's helped me the most in my career is honestly being able to communicate my ideas really effectively. Being a creative director and being a technologist, like I love technology, which is why most of what I do now uses technology. But if this was, there's some sort of weird like static beam came, I would still be in advertising. Maybe I'd be a janitor. But I'd still be a creative director, and I would be able to communicate my ideas really well, and I'd be able to make them organized, and I'd be able to give people the linear narrative of how something grows and how something builds and how it lives over time, and be able to make them, all of that so they can understand it at any level, so that someone who's completely non-technical, non-creative can sit down and read it and understand it like a book, not like it's stereo instructions, like it's really, comprehensive. I think one of the other really, really big things for me that I recommend to absolutely anyone in any industry ever, anywhere, is learning the fundamentals of programming. And I cannot stress that enough. The foundations of how language works in programming are the same across language. And from a fundamental standpoint of what I know and what I learned here a billion years ago, I'm able to sit down with folks that are in very advanced languages, far beyond my abilities and what my abilities will probably ever be. But if they're building something, I can sit with them and be like, what if we look at it this way? Like, what if we use, loop sequencing and we have it working like this? And if we had it understanding and we had a little bit of learning within this randomization, and we can have a dialogue, because fundamentally we speak the same language, so we can speak in plain English something that they can mathematically make actionable and real for me. And that, I think, more than anything else, is my secret. So you guys all can have my job now.
I really appreciate that piece of advice, because I'm a technical director or a lead engineer on site, and I have to work with the creative producers to make a show happen. And I'm not a creative person at all. So when they start talking in these really general spatial terms and throw out things like ethereal and morphic,
Make it warmer.
yeah, make it warmer, or
Do your
it's like-
magic.
yeah, it's like,
That's my favorite.
what do you want me to do? Please talk with me. So I was just on a project, and the creative producer, he knew enough to be dangerous. It was great, but when I could get him to start speaking in technical terms, we were able to really work a lot more quickly and effectively through the challenges that we had on this particular ride. So that piece of advice is really great. I mean,
It's important.
I'm not asking you to be a programmer, please, but have some basic understanding of how technology works. Know what your limitations are, so that way you can help push the leading edge with manufacturers, just like us in the technical field do. But know also what your options are. Know what a piece of hardware can do, because the number of installations I've done, we're only utilizing 5% DSP on that unit over there. Like, we could do so much more in here, but no one ever thought about it. So knowing what your limitations are is both a good and a bad thing, but when you can effectively communicate with the project managers and with the technical people and the creative people all at the same time, speak a common language, the effect is much better, and the end result is going to be really impressive. That's the key.
Yeah, I agree, especially about the language, speaking the same language. As a creative, I'm a creative, I'm not a programmer. I deal in the visual image and mixing of that, and I work closely with the technical people on any installation or video, especially in-game videos. I have the guys from the dev team come down, and these guys know exactly how many pixels needs to fit into that box on that menu in the game, and literally it has to be to the pixel, or it totally freaks out the code. So we're on the same page as far as nomenclature, which is the language, goes. Very important that you understand, if you're creative and you work with programming people, that you guys speak the same language. I would go out of my way to learn how to speak. So I'm not just talking gibberish. Sometimes I do that because I can't get an idea across, and I can explain, I can draw it or show with motion, or I'll talk with my hands because I'm Italian. So I'm always like, it goes that way, and then it does this. And so they're like, no, I need a little bit more than that. So yeah, learning how to speak with your coworkers in a technical aspect is very important. It helps move things.
So as you look at the future of who's going to be graduating, do you value more the technical skill sets of the understanding of the media formats, or the communication aspect of it, or is it equal? Or can you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, you have to be able to communicate for what I
Getting along as a
I
team.
do.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, understanding your marching orders and understanding how to ask questions is really key. And that was something I was thinking about when both of you guys were kind of like, yeah, you gotta know how to talk with people in the same language. Is that you should ask. I think if you're leaving these, it's really easy when you're a student to be like, what is this? Teach me. But when you're out in the world, like, you think, oh, you can't do that. Like, let's do it, please. Like, I've never met a technical person who doesn't want to, like, when I ask them a question, isn't like, oh, let me tell you. Like, they're just like,
Yeah.
I get really excited about that.
Totally. Yeah.
like, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Let me tell you of
Yeah.
my many things.
Yeah.
Look at this Cat 5 cable and what it can do. And most of what I learned was when I was very, very young in the industry, when I was in my early 20s, and when I'd get to be on location and I get to be working with like really, really high-end tech folks. Be like, can I watch you do that? Can I work? Can I come into somebody else? Can I come into your office and just see that? And then I would write down words or write down something they would say, and then at the end be like, so what was that? Like, what is this? And then they would explain it to me, and that's how I would get better and better at it. Because otherwise you kind of won't, Like, so I feel like the communication is they're both kind of vital, but the format really, like, that should be easy. Like, you should be able to just like Google, like, what is the best codec for this? Like, what is the resolution of that?
Right.
And like that stuff, you don't have to memorize that stuff. There's no test in the real world that you didn't like look at your phone and be like, well, how many DPI is the right DPI? Like, no one's gonna be like, no. But make sure you look it up, because they will if you get it wrong. you know, but like the communication stuff, if you want to work on your craft, I would say that's the one that I think is the nuance. It's harder to learn, that takes more time and focus.
Asking questions is huge. I'll tell you, because I'm on the hiring team as well for my department, and I tell people, actually, I learned how to interview people, and what I like is when I'm interviewing somebody and I'm asking them questions, we're all bombarding them with questions, and you can just see the sweat running down their face, but I wait. The person that asks me questions is the person I'm going to be interested in, because they're interested in driving their own career, and they're interested in learning about how they can help us be better in our department. And I always tell them, and when people get hired, the first thing I tell them, I said, do not be afraid to ask any questions, ever. Don't just take direction and go off and start doing your own thing and go. You could be going completely in the wrong direction and spend a lot of time doing work that's just going to get thrown away. It's going to be a waste of time. Always ask questions. I can't stress that enough. People, where in our level, I love questions. I really do. It's not a pain. It's not annoying. It shows that you want to do the right thing. You want to learn. You want to go in the right direction. I ask questions every day. My boss calls me Mr. Pain in the, because I ask questions constantly. Project comes down. Okay, here we go, and then down the line, question. You're like, Joey, shut up. So.
But that's cute. Like it's cute. It's funny to be the guy who always asks and gets it right.
Yeah.
Is this right? Like, is this the right green? Is this
Yeah.
right? Like, it's kind of like that's a quirky guy who's always asking those questions. But like, it's not funny to be the person who doesn't ask and gets it wrong. That's
Exactly,
like-
and it reduces
Like,
revisions.
it's not a cute quirky.
It reduces
trait.
revisions as well, because one question could, eliminate 2 or 3 revisions of what you're working on. So I always ask questions. I ask questions of everybody.
I
That's
kind of want to
awesome.
share a quick embarrassing
yeah.
story about asking questions. This was the first lesson I learned, first day on the job actually. I just got hired out of Full Sail, and day one, here's the task, and I was like, okay, I think I know of a way where I can make this work, and I had like a small little glitch in it, and my boss is like, why don't you use custom document properties in Microsoft Office? And I'm like, I don't know what that is. He gets up off of his chair, walks over to my desk, grabs my mouse and opens up Google, taps on the screen, walks away. And it just totally didn't even occur to me that I could Google the answer. I didn't know it. Like, I could have looked it up. And I should have just known, you need to ask questions. So that was day one. Day two, I started asking questions. So always ask questions. Never, if you don't know something, then you need to research it. We all just admitted that every day we're learning something, and that's so important for everyone. So I think the biggest admission that you are willing to learn is when you're asking questions. It shows I'm interested, I'm participating, I'm asking you a question because I want to learn.
And you want to do it right.
Yeah, and you want to do it right.
Even if I know something, I confirm it by asking questions.
Yeah.
Unless you can find it on the internet. That is a really important story.
Can't believe everything you find on
Because-
the internet, though.
People who will not Google things and look them up for themselves
Mm.
drive me bananas. And I will send them, let me Google that for you links.
Love that website.
Often.
Or you just get an email that says Google is your friend.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this actually transitions into a really good part of our panel today, because we're going to put the audience to the test, and let's see if they have questions for you and see what they actually
Bring
have.
it.
So
Bring it.
Yeah.
anyone out there who does have a question, if you want to raise your hand,
It can
we
be about
have someone
anything.
who'll be coming around.
Even not this panel.
All right.
Okay, but hopefully the panel.
How you doing, Darren? Your cloud technology here, Full Sail. My question is, with the future of media and the way it's virtually accessible anywhere, when you want to do projects with someone across the world, with working with a company or just yourself, do you guys ever sit and think about the vulnerabilities aspect of whatever product in which you're working on? I'm talking more so cybersecurity, information security aspect, where you feel like the vulnerability of whatever it is that you're creating may be accessible without you knowing about it.
Want me to start?
Well, security.
Want to get into network security?
Let me start with practical security.
Yeah, okay.
That there's a huge
That's
amount.
a big one.
Yeah, I mean
That's a
there's
big question.
there's a huge amount of trust that's put into myself, really, from my clients, because we work with clients such as Disney or Universal or whomever, these giant film studios or production facilities, and they're like, you're the system programmer, you have to load the media assets. This came from our production house. This cannot get onto the internet. No one is ever allowed to have this. It's not branded, it's not whatever's going into our attraction. And it first has to jump onto my computer so I can upload it. And it's like, I have people standing over my shoulder making sure, is that really deleted off your computer when it's done? I mean, there's some intense moments. I have to walk around, with a handcuffed briefcase, with the media, on me. Not that extreme, but I mean, practically. So being smart about file management, media assets, and respecting your client's files, that's the first type of security, making sure it's not getting out there.
Yeah, exactly. I work for EA, which anybody who knows anything about EA, they have one of the tightest IT departments in the world. So there's a lot of IP that's very proprietary, software proprietary. Security is of the utmost concern, and we keep everything. We have separate server lines for video so that other areas of the building can't get into it and delete projects and media and that kind of thing. Security is very important. Even even logging on like VPN. We have a password app that actually cycles the password every 60 seconds. So it's a different password every 60 seconds. You can't. It's not something where you can leave the company and try to log into your computer, because you can't. It's impossible. So yeah, security is huge.
I will agree. What if that was it?
That's it. Next.
No, I have an answer. I've been in a similar situation where I worked on a project with Justin Bieber, and we were released secret Bieber secrets, and it was my first high confidentiality. Like, you get a lot of confidentiality with brands that's like, we know the new Oreo flavor before you, but not really stuff like the internet's not lighting up about that one, not the way they do with Bieber. So that was definitely a really, really big one. They did a lot of vetting of our servers and where we were going to be doing hosting and what our redundancy was and who was in and out of the facility. And some companies want to have all your hosting with an armed guard and stuff like that, which is cool for enterprise level. But I think more, I don't really know where you're going with your media, but more something that I think about personally with the stuff that I create and my media. Take it, get it out there. There's a lot of stuff that's really sacred to me that I wouldn't want other people to have, and that's for me. And I don't put that doesn't touch a network. I have two computers at home. One is online and one is offline. If it's offline, it's for me, but I work alone. When something's finished, then it's online, and then that can be for everybody. So, because I can be very private when it comes to my art and my work. But when I think about, when you think about downloads and exposure, and if that's kind of what you're thinking about with the media term, you got to think about guys like Danger Mouse. There would probably be no Gnarls Barkley without the Grey album. The #1 most illegally downloaded album, I think, ever in the history of the world. It was so good. It's Kim Alpert's #1 early morning, have to get this work done jam album of all time. And it's great. And it made him, as an artist, a household name. He made $0 off of doing it. It's phenomenal work. From a technical standpoint, a musical standpoint, and an awesome standpoint, it tends across the board. And it made him a huge artist that was then collaborating with other huge artists, and now he's probably in a hot tub full of champagne somewhere. So that.
Thank you for that visual.
Yeah.
I got it. It's right there.
And the bubbles are just
Yeah.
bubbling.
Hot tub time machine. I got it.
Cool.
All right.
Hi, Eric Goldstein, Digital Arts and Design. I was just curious because I remember you mentioning that now they're implementing 8K video I was just curious, with all the technologies that they've been actually having the 360 video, is there any possibility of that becoming a thing that would be televised or any type of other technologies that would be implemented with it?
That's a good question. I'm not sure about broadcast media. The problem with that is that reaches so far into the consumer market because now you need consumer endpoints to be able to handle 8K. I mean, here in the US, we're just now getting all stations up to 1080. A lot of them, when HD video came out, it was 720 here. It was 1080 in Europe, but it was 720 here. So we're just now getting to 1080, and then now we have this all 4K thing, but we can't even get our codecs up to speed yet to be able to deliver all that content. So broadcasting into the consumer realm is not quite a thing. For permanent installations, it totally is a thing. We just did a whole dark ride where the last scene was a dome. It was all projected on the ceiling, kind of like a planetarium, and trying to get all the servers to frame sync to each other and get all the projection lined pixel perfect into a dome, these complex spheres. That's a good challenge. The biggest problem is we can't even get 8K down a single wire yet. That's been the biggest challenge. I think only DisplayPort version 1.3, don't quote me on that, is capable of even pushing that much data, but then it can't handle audio at the same time. So that's kind of where we are with technology, is trying to get to that point. But maybe in the future, we'll finally start streaming 8K to your home, but it's probably way out yet.
Yes. Is my answer.
Good support.
Please make as much 360 video as possible. All of us with headsets will thank you. Immersion is going to be kind of everything. I think 360 is going to be more prevalent as time goes forward. As far as in the broadcast world, I can tell you and share with you probably public links that I'm sure exist, that there are folks doing 360 in broadcast. It's interesting how it's being done. It's different than I think I really expected. It's mostly in the live arena kind of space that I've seen thus far. But more and more, as people have headsets at home, they're going to have to give the content over, and it's funny that we even say broadcast because now everything is wired, right? Like, they're all IPTV, so is that going to go the way, like, instead of saying, I'm going to tape that, instead of, like, I'm going to record that, are we going to, like, not say broadcast anymore?
Yeah.
Because are we going to say, like, fibercast? Like, are we going to totally shift that? Ooh, that was so future-y.
Hair is standing up on my arm. Yeah.
So, yes, please make more.
Yeah.
360 it up.
Yeah. I can't even talk about the gaming aspect of it. They'll take my firstborn. Can't talk about it. But broadcast, I don't know. Like Kim said, I mean, don't watch a lot of broadcast TV anymore. It's mainly streaming stuff and YouTube stuff. And I'll tell you, when I first got that first YouTube video where you can actually grab it and move it, I was like, holy cow. Like, this is going to change everything. So to have that VR experience, and I can't imagine with the goggles and the headsets and everything, to be immersed in it with a 60-inch TV in front of you. I just can't imagine. It's something that it just evolves, in my own head, because I've been in broadcast for so long, in advertising and in the video space. A screen. You show me one of these, I can make something to go on this or on one of those or on the screens. But the VR thing, it's new, and it's something that I'm going to have to learn about. I'm looking forward to learning about it. So yeah, it's real exciting. It really is. And I'm like a baby in it right now. I don't.
Now, Bryce, your experience with VRs, that's really a big shift for you, right?
Yeah, that's kind of up and coming. There's been several installations that have come to us saying we have an idea for a walkthrough attraction at, say, a theme park where it's all VR based, and that's kind of an interesting idea, because now we're talking about 120 or 240 VR headsets in an attraction all being used at the same time. And it's like, how do we handle that much content bandwidth going to all of those? How do we make that work? And then how do we make it durable enough to last in an attraction at a theme park with millions of guests a year. So these are the things that we're asking, not just hardware, but then who's generating that content and how does that content play into the attraction itself. That's up and coming.
I'm gonna jump back to something that Joey said that made me think about something really cool. So for like the second or third time, somebody told me a story about their young kid going up to like a TV that's on like a low table, and they walk up to the TV and they're swiping it. They're like swiping it. Kid that can't even talk, swiping that TV, just like next. Like that's, if you really want to get into like the future of the media, go look at kids that don't have language and how they use technology, if they've been using phones and things like that, and what their desires are and how they understand and their inherent usability kind of desires. Like that's what's gonna happen. You know, we're gonna walk up to that and we're gonna swipe it. We're gonna hit that logo and it's gonna bring it up. I'm gonna hit her shirt and it's gonna send it to me and it's gonna be tailored for my body because I got 3D scanned at the store. Like it's here. You know, there's 3D scanning feet to get your shoe size now at Nordstrom, right?
That's kind of what made me fall in love with the Kinect, the Xbox Kinect.
Yeah.
Is grabbing the menus and throwing them and pulling stuff and expanding it and just standing in front of the TV and not even touching anything. It's just, but you get the feeling of being immersed in it, you know, totally surrounded by it. It's really amazing.
Awesome. Okay.
Actually got a lot of questions online here, so there's a lot of activity online and very engaged with what you guys are saying. The first question is from Knight, who is in mobile development, and his question is, how important is it for someone to be able to marry technology with humanity? And if you think it's important, why do you think it's important?
Yes. It's very important because you want humans to use the technology. If you're making technology for robots, then it's important that robots feel like it. But you know, human-centered design and that movement in usability is so important because at the end of the day, like you can't get away with the things that like I think we used to be able to get away with. Where we're just like, that looks good. The buttons are here. The close is there. Like that it looks good because people didn't have any other options. They didn't know anything. There was no conventions. Like now there's conventions of like the way things work, and it has to create a certain feeling where you want to get an emotion. You know, people talk about like, you know, empathy design and service design, all these different methodologies to create interactive. So it's super important that you think about the human element when you're making something, particularly in mobile, because you know, if you design a button that's in like a weird place, but it's a mobile app for like, you know, doing maps or wayfinding for while you're driving, and like you have to lift the phone up higher than usual to hit the button, and then like everybody loses depth perception, like that's horrible usability unless you're a Cyclops. So it would not work.
Yeah.
Also, wait, to all the online students, I wish you were all here as holograms. Hall of Fame 2017.
So we got Teslas and holograms. Okay.
I'll be a hologram in your house. You'll all be here.
Yeah, and it's not just for entertainment. I mean, you know, linking technology with humanity. I mean, it's you know, you have children with disabilities. I can't even stress it enough on how important those little connections of technology. An iPad, you know, they supply iPads to kids in you know, autism schools to help them communicate because they can't verbally communicate and they're locked in there. But this helps them express themselves. So yeah, technology and humanity, it goes so. And the thing is that the companies, the smart companies, are developing more humanity-based apps, and they're going after the people who really need it the most, and that's super important.
From my perspective, it's all about culture. Most of my work has been outside the United States. Actually, I have not done a project in the United States. I lived in China for a year. I've been to Italy and Germany. I will be moving to Dubai in a few months and being there for probably 1 to 2 years. Theme parks, cruise ships, that type of thing is mainly my specialty. So for me, it's all about understanding the culture in the world that I live in. One of my hobbies is studying languages, and what better way to do that when you're actually living there? But that goes into their culture as well, and how different countries use media. It's actually very fascinating. It's the type of content that they create or that they display, or it's the way that they tell a story. That was a huge thing in China. We came out with this crazy script. It was this whole intense story with a really complex storyline. And when the owner rode through it, he says, "I don't understand it," because their culture just is not as big into storytelling as we are. They're all about the wow factor. So understanding what culture you're in, that's the most important thing when you're creating media or doing an installation or design or what have you, is really understanding the people that are going to experience this ride. What language do they speak? What is their culture? What's their understanding? Because America is not the way that all other countries are, and that'll blow your mind if you ever get out of the U.S., which I highly encourage everyone to try and do a foreign project, because it'll blow your minds of just how different people are around the world.
I don't think there is technology without humanity linked to it.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't
Yeah.
think it's possible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even programming languages, like we were saying, programming languages are based on human languages.
They're languages.
They are languages themselves. Yeah. I mean, it's all based on the mechanics of programming languages are based on our natural spoken languages. So it starts with bits, and it's all the same. It's all humanity wrapped into it.
Come on, bring it.
Ken, your comment about the hologram was just a perfect segue for the next question from our online group.
Cool.
And it's from John Paul, who's in the Entertainment Business Masters program. He says, online content creators today rely on media platforms constantly. What innovations in technology and new media would you like to see be made that would help creators reach their audiences and online community more effectively?
Oh my goodness. Can I tell you guys one of my fantasy hologram ideas?
Oh, here it comes.
I don't have time to build it, so I would love if somebody did. I will tell you, hand to God, this idea is close to 20 years old. And when I first laid it down, people were like, "There'll never be life-size holograms." So I want a machine learning, artificially intelligent hologram, life-size, of musicians that are aware when they're next to other musicians, and from understanding composition, they're able to jam. So that I can have my Miles Davis, Jimi Hendrix fantasy jam band of my dreams. Yeah, I mean, I don't really remember your question that much. No, I think, honestly,
You just wanted to get that out. Oh, I love you so much.
I just want somebody to make it for me. No, I think there's a lot of ways that technology can bring us together and can help to get closer. Most of my team is in another state from me at my current gig, so we use a lot of different video conferencing and things like that. If we had enough headsets, I'm sure we would do meetings in VR. One of the things that I thought was so cool when Second Life was a big thing was just its ability to do translation and allow people from different cultures to really exchange and to talk and to not have those barriers. There was a real-time translator necklace at CES this year that was really, really cool. I think that's really exciting. Technology that can make it easier to spread ideas and to spread philosophy and to kind of push everything culturally forward, to really, just save us and save everything that we're working towards, so that all of the people in all of the places can be as happy and as fed and as supported as they need.
I saw something really weird technology-wise. Some guys at EA were in a meeting, and it was a meeting across the country. It was guys in our studio and guys in, I think it was EA Canada, and there were robots in the meeting with faces on them, and it was the guys on camera, and the robots had wheels, and they were talking, and they were pacing up and down in the room, and they were talking. You ever see what was it? Oh, I can't think of the movie now. Anyway, it was the coolest thing because it was just the guy's head on the top of, looked like a Segway.
Yeah.
And there was 4 or 5 of them in the room, and there were people sitting there, and it's just, I don't know, just a feature film thing comes up in my head when I see stuff like that, and it works.
Those are everywhere in offices now.
It's the first time I've ever seen it, and
Yeah.
it blew me away.
The first time I saw it, I was like, this is terrifying. Why would you
It's
ever do this?
terrifying. It is.
And then the first time I got to control it, I was like, this is awesome. Like, I totally want to do this.
You feel like running up to going,
I was in a hotel, and like I was way upstairs, like in a ballroom,
Mhm.
and then the robot me was in the lobby. And I was like, hi,
That's
hello.
awesome.
Like, welcome, I'm upstairs, like, what's going on? Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I just
It
thought
made
was
it
cool.
like creates closeness when it can't be done.
It
which
puts a
is hard.
face.
Yeah.
Instead of a Skype meeting or something that, well, not a Skype meeting, but like a conference call, it puts a face on the person you're talking to, and it works. I mean, literally, there's expression, and there's arguing going back and forth, and it's the person's face.
Yeah.
But it's just on wheels, on a platform. It's just weird.
It is weird.
It's just weird.
It's weird.
I don't know. Technology.
Do I have time for one more question? I'll hand up here.
Hi, my name is Tracy. I'm a music business student.
Hi, Trace.
Hi. I wanted to ask how you guys, okay, so like, virtual reality is like this big thing like you were talking about, and concerts, live music concerts going virtual is like a thing now, that people are interested in. I wanted to know if you thought like the future of media would make that industry go away, like concerts on TV. It's easier. You don't have to leave your house. It's easier for the artists. Like, is that human interaction going to keep it around, or do you think that media will negatively affect the live concert?
I'll take that first. There's nothing like a live concert. I think virtual reality concerts. I don't think that's. There's nothing like when you walk into an arena, and even watching the setup, feeling the energy. You can feel the people entering. That is a visceral experience that you cannot experience in VR. I don't care what they pump into your head, in your eyes, in your ears. I don't care if there's somebody shaking you every time they hit a chord. There's nothing like a live concert. The smells, the guy next to you. It's part of the process. I will never watch a VR concert. Maybe I strike that. If it's like an older concert that was created in VR that I can't attend, yes. But if it's a live concert of a group that I always loved, that I've never seen live every time for me.
What if it's a city that you're not in?
Not the same.
What if it's sold out and you can't get a ticket?
I don't know. It's not the same.
Thank you very much, Joey.
Thank you. No problem. See, ask questions, right?
Well, I wanted him to really think
Absolutely
about it. I wanted
right.
to really know how you
You're
felt
right. No,
about
those
it.
are valid questions. Absolutely. But for me, it's that live thing. Like my son went to his very first concert. It was a Rolling Stones concert, and to me, it's something he's never going to forget. He was only 17 years old, and it was his first, and he wanted to go. I mean, he's not, he's not into the pop music as much as he is into the 80s and the early rock stuff. So when the opportunity came up, and my wife won tickets on the radio, believe it or not.
Stop.
Yeah, she called in on the road, almost ran up a tree when they said, you're the 10th caller. And, so anyway, they saw the Rolling Stones and said it was the most amazing thing ever, just to watch them run around on stage and the smoke and the fire and the whole 9 yards. I don't see that as being an experience in VR at all. It's just looking around and, oh, this is cool. But can you do that for 2 hours of listening to music? Just being in an artificial space? I don't think so. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think it's gonna go away, but I do think. I mean, I kind of like agree with both of you. I think there's a lot of settings and things that make it something that they want. So like in Chicago where I live, like we have Pitchfork Festival, which is awesome, and I love it, except for the fact that I hate the way that it sounds outside, because outdoor shows typically sound terrible if you're looking for like actual great acoustics and range. So as much as I love hanging out with like my friends, there was a year that they streamed some of it, and when they streamed the board mix, it sounded awesome. And like, would I rather pay to see a group that I absolutely love play a live show and have the audio quality be incredible and watch it on the 9-foot projection in my house or in VR with like beautiful surround sound. Yeah, I definitely would pay for that. Would I pay for that for a show that I already saw? Absolutely. If it was a great show.
Yeah.
I could probably rattle off like I have 100 shows that if you were like, you could buy that right now, I would absolutely pay for it. Like I would just be like, here you go, like no problem. Just making it rain all over those concerts.
On the other hand, though, these bands, if that happens, these bands will probably start creating shows for VR.
Yeah.
So that will be an experience that I would definitely go after. You know.
Let me say that I'm a little bit skeptical of the future of VR. I see it as a toy. And the reason why I say that is, did MP3 downloads kill live production?
Yeah.
Did home DVDs or Redbox kill going to the movie? It's like we like going to the movies because it's a social thing, it's the experience. It's not the same, even if you have a really decked out home cinema. Trust me, I've designed a few. But it's not the same as going to the movie theater with your friends and seeing it on the really big screen, unless if you own a movie theater, then you can't have that. So VR is going to be cool, but it's not the same experience. So I don't think it's going to be a household thing. I think holograms are going to beat that out. It's the Betamax versus DVD thing. You know,
They're not. I feel like they're not even competitive. They're so different.
They are different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just don't think that a live experience could be equally as enjoyable or lesser enjoyable than a VR experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's different.
It has its place.
It's a different
It's a different experience.
Yeah, you can't really compare it. And I think a lot of it, you know, I mean, if you were like, oh, you're going to, like, if it was, you are the guy, like the guy who wore like some kind of 360 helmet, who was like the lead singer, and you could like VR yourself as him, like that would be insane.
Sure.
That you couldn't do.
I think there's
But to
different
be an
experiences.
audience, exactly, let's be like an audience member at either one, I think it's, you know, it's a really smart way to monetize as a band or a group or a venue or a festival. You know, what is that next level thing that we're going to be able to do as like a form of media to actually be able to have long-term revenue off of a concert sale? You know, because if you're not going to produce necessarily like a super duper duper high-end full DVD with like a crane and a flying drone camera and like this big thing, you know, you put up a couple of 360 cameras in there and you can switch back and forth once you're in VR. I think that's a piece of media that you could probably sell for like a song or 2 songs at a couple bucks a piece or whatever, and people would download that and they would pay for that even if they were using cardboard and not like a really high-end headset, because it's interesting and it's different, but it's not a one-to-one experience difference.
Yep.
You know, at no point am I going to be like, oh, I'm going to put on my headset and like, now I'm at this fancy restaurant and I'm eating this TV dinner.
Right.
Like I'm still at home eating a TV dinner.
What a great question to wrap things up with. So we just want to say thank you to all of you for attending our session today. And of course, thank you to our panelists, Kim, Bryce, Joey. Your insight, your knowledge on this industry has been invaluable. So thank you so much. How about a round of applause for them? And have a great day, everyone.